Hi guys, my name is Leilani and I am a clinical nutritionist and I'm a chef, and I'm here to teach you how to make the foods and meals you love but will actually be good for your gut, your brain and your body. And I want them to be really practical for the everyday person. So I've kind of simplified each of the recipes with the main star ingredients so you can add your own things as you go along. It is evidence-based, but I've kind of tried to simplify the science and tone it down so that you just get the bits that you'll remember. Today we're going to talk about immune boosting, gut healthy spaghetti bolognese, everybody's favorite. First I'm going to talk about the ingredients, the nutrients, the products, and then we'll go into the actual cooking of it. So essentially, I'm going to make a bolognese sauce that is 1/3 mince, 1/3 lentils, and then the other third will be vegetables that have specifically immune boosting nutrients. And I mean, immunity now is such a big topic, it's a big deal. It's always been a big deal, but I think post-COVID, people are a little bit more aware of supporting their immune system. And there's about 5 of the top nutrients that you can try to get into your diet to help improve the function of the immune system. And they are vitamin C. So vitamin C is kind of like the shield, and it sort of protects the immune cells from damage. Then there's vitamin D. I like to think of that as the defense, and it helps to, it basically helps the body produce proteins to fight off and kill bad bacteria and viruses. Then you've got zinc. Zinc is to do with the communication between the immune cells, and then that helps for an effective immune response, because it's basically a war going on down there. The immune cells are coupled up with the gut cells, and they live in the same territory in the headquarters of your body. And if you want to know more about gut health, I've got a short talk on my YouTube channel that just kind of goes into the big pointers of gut health, because I'll talk a lot about gut health here, but I don't want to go into all the details every single week. So we've got vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, vitamin A, and vitamin A has anti-inflammatory skills that help avoid damaging healthy cells. And lastly, we've got vitamin E. And vitamin E is more of like, it enhances the response of T cells. And T cells are like the terminator cells, so they fight off infection. So these ingredients that I've got here, I've researched to have some of the highest amounts of those. So we'll go through them right now. So in terms of vitamin C, parsley. Now the thing about vitamin C is that it breaks down in heat. So I'm going to add this parsley at the end, and that will help retain the vitamin C. There's still a bit of vitamin C, but it gets lost in heat. So vitamin C also comes from the peppers, the tomatoes, and we've got a little bit of vitamin C also in the lentils. Then we've got vitamin D, mushrooms. These are phenomenal for vitamin D. And I know a lot of people don't love them in kids, and that's why I blend them up and I sneak them into sauces like this, where they pretty much are undetectable. Vitamin D, and also sunshine has vitamin D, so you could eat your meal out in the sun to help vitamin D intake. And also it's a very good test to have your doctor test for your vitamin D levels and to get an idea of where you're at. Because if you're chronically sick and you're feeling like you just can't be at your full capacity, it also can be a vitamin D deficiency. I definitely recommend checking that out. What else we got? Vitamin D, vitamin A. So vitamin A comes from, like, carrots are a good one, parsley, spinach, celery, zucchini. I've got zucchini here, just chopped up in chunks. And the reason it's chopped up in chunks like this is because I'm going to put it into a blender to make the whole process just really quick. And then I've got, well, the vitamin E actually comes from the mince, and I've got grass-fed beef, and grass-fed beef mince does have higher levels of all the nutrients, but specifically vitamin E, sorry. And capsicum and zucchini also have vitamin E. I keep forgetting the vitamin. And then we've got zinc. So zinc is in the lentils, zinc is in the mushrooms, and zinc is also in the grass-fed beef. So they're the main nutrients. For gut health, we've got onions, and again, these are just cut in half to blend up. Onions are really good for gut health, and they're really just such a cheap and cheerful, underrated vegetable. I sort of put them in everything because I think they add a nice flavor. So garlic and onions have something called fructans in it, and this is resistant to digestion by our human enzymes, and so it feeds up the good bacteria. And the other thing that feeds up good bacteria, and if you've listened to my other talks, you'll know so much about this, is beans and lentils. And that's why we're actually putting lentils in today. And the other thing about lentils is that they're so small that they almost look like mince when they are cooked up. And that's why I add kind of that equal portion, but you could just start with a bit smaller amount if you prefer. But the lentils have a range of prebiotic fibres. They've got FOS, they've got oligosaccharides, they've got resistant starch, and they are cheap. So also Bolognese can be a bit expensive on the meat front, but if you buffer it with lentils, it's going to bring the cost down as well. Now, so covered this. These are just some aromatics. You don't have to put it in, it's just to bring some flavor. And I'll talk about I've got some passata. Obviously, I like to go with the glass jar rather than the tin, and I do go organic in tomatoes. And one of the reasons is it's really not that more expensive to buy the organic passata, particularly if it's on special, and I buy a ton of them. And it has the skins removed, so I prefer to have tomato without the skins because they can be difficult to break down. Now, in terms of the pasta, you'll know that I love this pasta if you've watched my channel, and normally if you want it proper gut healthy, should I say, I would go for sort of like a legume-based pasta, not so much the gluten-free one. And I'll tell you why. The gluten-free one has a lot of corn in it, and corn can be very difficult for the digestive tract. So I would prefer people go with more of a legume-based if you can tolerate them. And this is so awesome. If you look at the ingredients, which is hard to find, it is just, let's see if you can see this here, organic edamame, which is a baby soybean, flour and water, and that's it. Really, really simple. Now today I'm actually going to use a different alternative pasta just because I don't want to always bang on about how great these legume-based ones are. And so I've gone to you could get this at the supermarket, but I actually have got it at the health food store. So this is a spelt, so it's organic, spelt based, and I think it's got kumut in it as well. But the reason I've gone with this is, one, a lot of people will react to the pesticides in non-organic pastas, and it's because grains are very heavily sprayed. And so I recommend, if you can afford it, just to go up a notch, get yourself an organic type of pasta. And spelt is an ancient grain, so essentially what's happening with our wheat is it's become a Frankenstein food. It's been modified, and now it's got very, very high gluten. So if you find a pasta that has an ancient grain, which spelt is one of those ancient grains, it still does have gluten, but it'll have a lot less gluten. And so this has been actually, it's a traditional artisan variety, so it's been hung dried for a few days, and that helps also with the breakdown of the gluten. And that's why I spend a bit of extra money on my pasta, and I recommend you do too. So what we're gonna do, I forgot about the cheese. Now you don't have to have cheese. This could be dairy-free if you want it to be. I am using butter to start with, but you could use oil if you want to keep it dairy-free. I just like the way that butter balances with tomato. I think it makes it just a little less acidic, kind of a little bit less of that feeling. Now, if you are going to put cheese on spag bowl, which, come on, let's be honest, we love some cheese on spag bowl, I recommend going for aged cheese. And this is, I mean, you don't have to get this kind, but this is just to give you an idea of what the label might say. This is 12-month aged cheese, so it's a vintage cheddar. And I do like the European cheeses. I don't always spend this much money on cheese for the top of spag bowl, but I had it already. But I do get a vintage cheddar and I get it aged, so it has really low lactose. All right, these are the ingredients. What we're gonna do, we're gonna really simplify this recipe. And hopefully you can stay with me. I'm gonna get a food processor. In my case, it's going to be a Thermomix because that's what I have, but you could use a food processor. And we're gonna put all of this stuff inside. I'm gonna start with the garlic just because I want it to chop a bit thinner. Onions. So you kind of halve, quarter the onions. Big chunks, roughly the same size in the food processor. These guys, carrots, mushrooms, and I'm gonna blend it up and we're gonna start cooking with that. And so I'll meet you over by the stove and I'll talk you through the process of the cooking. Bye. All right, welcome to my stove top. So I put some butter in there. You can absolutely use oil. I tend to find I get a cultured butter and I don't have any issues with it. So, and I also find that butter and tomato works really well together. But of course, if you want to use olive oil, you can. So I've chopped in my food processor. You can see things are so small, and that's kind of how I want it. I want it to be a bit hidden veg style. So I'm gonna heat that and I'm gonna cook the veg first. It looks like a lot, but it does tend to wilt it down. As I was saying earlier, I'm looking for about 1/3, 1/3. So that'll probably reduce down to about that much. And then I'll put the lentils and I'll put the meat. So they're about equal parts. So I'll cook this for about 5 to 10 minutes, just so it enhances the flavor. And then I will see you back here. Okay, so they've been cooking on relatively high heat, just so I don't have any water there, because you don't want them to steam, you want them to saute. Hopefully that's not blowing into the camera. Now you could either take them out if you wanted to, or just push them to the side. Now I'm gonna add my meat, and now I'll add some salt. I use iodized sea salt to get a little bit more iron. You'll need quite a bit of salt in this recipe because of the tomato. I'm also going to add some pepper. Optional, but delicious. And now we're just going to wait for this to cook. So once it's a bit more cooked, I'm going to stir it through and we'll add the aromatics and the tomatoes. All right, welcome back. So I've been cooking this for about 15 minutes and it's all beautifully mixed in. You can't even see the mushrooms. They're basically undetectable, which is what we want, I suppose, when you're feeding family with kids. And this is when you add flavoring. So you could add red wine if you wanted to do that. You can add spices or herbs. I'm gonna add bay leaf and thyme. You could add rosemary. You could add, what else? Worcestershire, a bit of balsamic. There's so many different options for flavoring. What we're gonna do is now add the tomato. And I'm gonna essentially simmer that for about another 10 minutes. And you could either add the lentils in now or after. So it's sort of up to you how you want to do it. I prefer to add them a bit earlier because they sort of break down. So, and it just helps with digestion. But what's really important with these lentils, is that you wash them super, super well. So when you wash them, put them into a bowl, rinse them with your hand, and then tip out that liquid. Because the liquid that's in there is basically all of the stuff that's leached out of the beans, which isn't particularly good for your gut or your body. Looks like there's a lot of lentils in there, but it's just because they're all floating to the top. So I'll put the lid on this. I'll cook it for about 10 minutes and I will taste for any more salt or aromatics that I might want to add. I'll see you then. All right, welcome back. I've had the lid on and been cooking it for about 15-20 minutes. And I'm really liking the consistency of it. Some people like more tomato, that's as you wish. What I feel like it needs is, with tomato, it is so nice if you don't have tomatoes that are in season, it's really nice to add just a little bit of sugar. Okay, that's hardly anything really. But that just helps balance the acidity, and just a little bit more butter, and that helps add a bit of creaminess to it. They're optional, but they are delicious. And then I'll wait until this melts and I'm ready to serve it up. So I'll see you back in the kitchen in a couple of minutes. Okay, I'm back and I've plated up my pasta and I've put some of the spag bowl on top, and now we've got a couple of options. You can use this if you don't want to have dairy, or even if you just want to add more nutrients. This is nutritional yeast. They're very high in B vitamins, so that's good for energy production. And it tastes very similar to Parmesan cheese. So you can put a bit of that on. You don't have to really measure it. You could have a whole tablespoon of this stuff. It's delicious. I'm gonna add a bit of my aged cheese. And then of course some parsley. And I'm going to keep it fresh for the end. Normally I would just pack it on, but it doesn't look that beautiful for the photo. So here we go. This is, oh, we lost it. There you go. Being troublesome. So this is my good for your gut spag bowl and immune boosting pasta. I hope you try